I also want to talk about what products I'm using for the water. I feel like that's really important to talk about. There's so many, pardon my language, idiot fish owners who think you can just plop a fish in regular water. It doesn't work like that. Not at all. I'm going to talk about some of the great products here. So, one of the ones that I use, I use two. I use two water clarifiers, and I'm going to explain why. I know you only need one, but I'm going to explain why I use two. The first one is, if you can see this, this is the Fluval Total Protection. Fluval does a great product. They usually make really high-end fish tanks. I would never personally trust them for my betta fish, just because that's something else I should point out. Betta fish like to jump, so if you have a betta fish, please keep a lid. Please, oh please, keep a lid. That's fine if your lid has a little hole at the top for feeding, as you can see here. But please, oh please, keep a lid. I can't tell you how many betta fish people I've known that have dead betta fish because, you know, they don't like the space that they're in. They jump out. They try to see what else is in the world. And they find them crusted to the side of something later. Dead, obviously. And it's not very pleasant. I don't like to think about betta fish getting hurt. I really like them. They're beautiful creatures. They're much smarter than what people give them credit for. I'm going to get into that in a minute. So, this is the Fluval Total Protection, the water conditioner. You really only need a little bit for this one. When this 2.5 gallon tank, because of the instructions it gives on the side, I literally only put a tiny little drop in here, like maybe 1 or 2 drops worth, and then I dump it in with my water, right? Usually if you have the opportunity, you want to kind of have a side bucket that's always set up and ready to go for adding new water to your tank, with the water conditioner and stuff added beforehand, because distilled water is the best water to use. It kind of, all of the chlorine and stuff just kind of filters out, so it's even better for your fish if you can do that. But yeah, the other reason I use the Fluval is the Fluval has the herbal extracts that provide a coat for scales and fins, as it says on the front, and also reduces stress. So yeah, fish can get stressed out from anything, temperature changes, that kind of a thing, just being switched from tank to tank. You know, sometimes even just everyday life can stress out a fish, depending on what happened. Maybe you were shuffling things around in your tank, in their tank, while they were still in it, because, you know, you realize at the last second they don't have enough room to swim around here. You know, maybe I got to adjust a few things. That can be stressful, right? So yeah, so that's why I like the Fluval. Fluval is also the same brand of water conditioner that PetSmart uses, and PetSmart has a great reputation for keeping their fish alive, and there's a lot of places that don't keep their fish alive. Like, I would never buy my fish from Big Al's Aquarium. That sounds horrible. I mean, maybe some of the saltwater varieties and stuff you can only get there. But in terms of betta fish and stuff like that, you usually want to get them from PetSmart, or just a more reliable pet shop. They've kind of got a bad reputation, Big Al's, for some of the more common fish. They just don't seem to get taken care of properly, or they've got ick, or something else that can destroy your tank, some other kind of disease. Speaking of diseases, when Ezekiel here got sick, I treated him with Canaplex from the Seachem company, which introduced me to them. And this is where I'm getting into my other water conditioner that I prefer to use. This is Seachem Betta Basics. It's also safe for your plants, as you can see here on the front. It says, for my camera to focus, creates ideal environment for betta and plant. Seachem is really great because it's, I know it works, for example, because of my fish getting sick the one time, and it was this company that cured him, and I really thought I was going to lose him. I was kind of pushing it when I had learned more about betta fish. This particular product buffers pH. It's specifically formulated for bettas. Bettas are very unique and beautiful and wonderful fish, and they have a lot of their own special requirements outside from regular fish. You should always, before buying or using a product on a fish, especially betta fish. If you're not sure, look up on the internet whether or not people have used that product for that fish and if stuff is okay. Because there's been a lot of talk of people buying a particular product, using it, and it's killed their fish for whatever reason. It's affected the labyrinth organ or something else. So I always recommend reviews. Do your homework when it comes to betta fish. They are very special fish. They require so many other needs than what people give them credit for. The other thing I will talk about is food. This one is big for me. I just switched all their food. This is doing more research into betta fish. It's very important that your fish are eating proper food. And don't go to Walmart and buy the cheap stuff that I just all threw out last night. Please spend a little extra money on your betta fish food, and I'm going to tell you why. So a lot of the cheapy fish food from Walmart and other places, they usually add gluten meal, which, as you know, there's a lot of people that have celiac disease and all that sorts of stuff like that. There's people that are allergic to gluten. Why are we putting it in our pet food? Okay? That is the first thing I'm going to point out. Second, you'll notice there's not a lot of nutrition. If you go through all the nutritional facts, things won't make any sense. It usually is just kind of more of a wheat base stuff. And last time I checked, grain wasn't growing in the ocean or in rivers and lakes and stuff where fish like to swim. And last time I checked, fish weren't eating that. So why are we feeding them to our pets? It makes no sense whatsoever. So what you should do is do some research on proper fish food. I'm going to show you what I'm feeding my fish, because I think it's very important. Now, this stuff was kind of expensive, but it's worth it. This is one of the best brands you can get. This is the New Life Spectrum formula, especially for bettas. Big Al sells it. I don't know if PetSmart does. This was around $10, but you can see you get a lot in there. Look at, they're all in pellets. That's huge. That's going to last you, depending on how many betta fish you have, or depending on how many betta fish you have and how long you have them for. It's going to last you a long time. So it's worth the investment. It is an investment. The other thing that makes me feel comfortable about this product is it has an expiry date. So that kind of backs up to me that, you can see June 2018. That backs up to me that it's a legit natural product. That there's more real stuff in here that expires than there is fake things, which is huge. So as you can see on the back here, it's got all of the ingredients. One of the first ingredients is white Antarctic krill. Okay, so one of the first ingredients, because usually the way that it works with ingredient lists on any product is whatever there is the most of is usually at the beginning. Okay, and the first thing is krill. Okay, that's good. Okay, lots of fish species eat krill. It's good for them, and it says whole Antarctic krill. Okay, whole fish. And then there's all these other ingredients: vitamin A, omega-3, like keratin, kelp, vitamin C, and no hormone additives. Okay, this is stuff you can feed your fish that's not going to kill them. You're not going to send them to a slow grave from, fish diabetes you don't know whether or not they have. This is a good product. And it's going to last you a while. So it's an investment. Please go get something like this. Or ask your local fish expert. Especially if you have specialty fish stores, don't be afraid to ask, what is the best product to feed my fish? What are you feeding your fish? Do you have fish? Don't be afraid to ask. And there's nothing wrong to say, I'm new to the fish community. I have some questions. Can you help me out? And usually they're more than helpful, more than accommodating. Here's another one. So this is the Omega-1 Betta Buffet pellets. A lot of people gave this good reviews as well. And again, the first ingredient, I believe, is halibut, if it's going to focus in on there. Let me read it for you. First ingredient... Oh, sorry, whole salmon, then halibut, then shrimp. Okay, it still has wheat in here, but the first ingredients are whole salmon, whole halibut, and shrimp. And we already know that betta fish like shrimp. When you feed the fish fry, you're usually feeding them baby brine shrimp. So we know that if you like to switch up your betta food, which I recommend every now and then, bettas get bored very easily. They're smart fish. They get bored. So every now and then you want to just kind of switch up their food a little, just make sure that it's some nicer stuff like the brands I just showed you, just so that they're not completely bored on what they're eating. If you had the same meal every day, macaroni and cheese, you'd get pretty sick of it, right? So why would you do that to your fish? It just adds to their quality of life. It just adds to how long they're going to live. And it's just super helpful. Now, the other product that I'm feeding them, or should I say going to feed them, is Hikari frozen bloodworms. Okay? So the thing with bloodworms is they're great as a beta treat. Hikari is an amazing brand. They actually care about fish, and they're not trying to steal your money, which is, a nice thing. And it's all auctioned off in these little cubes that you can just kind of punch out through the back. Obviously, you wouldn't feed your fish a whole cube, which is something else I'm going to get into, is overeating. So yeah, you obviously wouldn't feed your fish a whole cube, but they are, again, world's cleanest frozen fish food. That's very important. There's a lot of bacteria and stuff that comes in with feeding your fish any type of live food and stuff like that. So you really just have to be careful. Again, if you're unsure, don't be afraid to pick the brains of the people at the pet shop. That's what they're there for. They're not there to stand there and look pretty and go get all your stuff for you. They're also there to answer questions and be useful. So take advantage of them. Information is free. You don't have to buy anything if you've got a question. And if they ask you to buy something, then, they're evil people. Don't go there anymore. Okay, so bloodworms, especially for beta fish, they're a great treat. They're beta fish love them. They're also used when you want to prepare your beta fish for breeding. They're going to need all of the nutritional benefits from bloodworms in order to get their bodies ready for the process. So that's why I have bloodworms right now, is I'm hopefully going to have time to give them bloodworms tonight. I'm going to pop out one of these little packages. I'm going to let it de-thaw in another container for a little bit, maybe half an hour, see what that looks like. Maybe rinse it off with a little bit of water just to be on the safe side, and then take a toothpick or something, or hopefully a non-sharp stick, like a coffee stick or something like that, and put a little on the end of that and give it to my fish and see how they like it. So yeah, I want to talk about overfeeding and overeating. A lot of people don't know about this, and they should. A beta fish stomach is usually about only the size of their eye. Okay, now if you take a look at Zeke there, you can see his eye's not very big. You can kind of see the white part where his eye starts. It's not very big at all. So my recommendation for feeding is usually, I like to try to feed them a good 8 hours apart at least. You can feed them longer apart. That's fine. I'm kind of once whenever I wake up in the morning, once before I go to bed. They're usually okay, so that I know that they're good through the night. What I feed them is the pellet food is really helpful because it helps you portion control. Now, you are going to take only 2 of these tiny little pellets and give them to your beta fish in the morning and in the night. You only need 2. They are going to expand more when they're in water. I mean, some people would even argue that's overfeeding them, but they don't get their food as regularly from me, so I give them 2. You could even do 1 in the morning, 2 at night, whatever, kind of to get them through the night, whatever you think is best. It's your fish. I can only recommend things to you. I can't tell you how to exactly the way your fish should live. I should just only give you recommendations. So I find that's a good system. That seems to work out, especially for my male, because he's very big. My females, I have a little bit of a different feeding strategy because they're smaller.